that happen? What if you... Oh, brilliant. I finished watering my plants. Now it's time to talk about Predaplants. More specifically, the brand new support included in the new Legendary Duelist Immortal Destiny booster pack that just got released. And if my mind serves me rightly, the Evil Hero stuff is ridiculously expensive and life is a mistake. Anyway, let us begin. Okay, so we may as well talk about the Scorpio package in detail anyway. So 3 Scorpio. This guy is basically the playstyle of the deck. If normal or special summoned, you can send a monster from your hand to the graveyard to summon any Predaplant monster from your deck. The Predaplant monster you'll normally be going for is Darlingtonia Cobra. This guy, when special summoned by the effect of a Predaplant monster, searches you any fusion or polymerization spell card. Anyone at all. This effect is once per duel, so this effect needs to go through. This card can search you Super Poly, it can search you the new Predaprime Fusion, it can search you Polymerization. All of these cards you're going to be using in this deck. But how do we get to our Scorpio? Well, if you remember back in 2009, Lone Fire Blossom was printed. This, once per turn, you contribute any face-up plant-type monster to special summon any plant-type monster from your deck. Classic card, perfect, amazing. You need to be playing 3 of this. 3 copies of Sundew. Now, Sundew lets you fusion from your hand or field, or you can use an opponent's monster with a predator counter as material, and if a monster with a predator counter is used as material, when this guy is fusion summoning, it's treated as dark. So if your opponent has a monster that has a predator counter, it's treated as dark, and then you can fuse with it, super poly it off, because it's treated as dark into any of your extra deck monsters. So this is another good way of clearing boards as well as getting into your big guys. Then we're playing 3 copies of the brand new Predaplant Helium and Predaplant Helium Thurinkus. If your opponent controls a monster with a predator counter, you can special summon it from your hand, and if it is destroyed by an opponent's card, you can target any dark dragon or dark plant monster in your graveyard, except this guy, and special summon it. Both of its effects are hard once per turn. This is a really good card to have because it's a level 8 Predaplant, and you need to have level 8 monsters. Otherwise, you can't go into GVFD, Greedy Venom Fusion Dragon, whatever. I don't know. Next card, 2 copies of Flytrap. Summon it, place a predator counter, that's about it really. If it battles a monster with level lower than it, it destroys it. Pretty self-explanatory. 2 copies of Saracenian. If your opponent's monster attacks directly, you can special summon it. And after damage calculation, if it battles an opponent's monster, you can destroy that opponent's monster. Also, if it is destroyed by battle, or if it was sent on the field to the graveyard by a card effect, including when it's being used as fusion summon, you can add a Predap card from your deck to your hand. That includes the monsters, that includes a spell trap, so this is a nice searcher to have. 1 copy is Spinodionia. It's basically distributes predator counters and maybe occasionally might be able to bring a predator plant monster out of your deck if it battles a monster with a equal or lower level. 1 copy of Squidrocera. This distributes a predator counter when it's sent from the field to the graveyard. It's got less than 1,000 attacks, so you can use it to go into Almirage and distribute a counter that way and get that bit of protection on the board. Then we have our 2 Kaijus, Banksy-Ogre and Drosophyllum Hydra. Banksy-Ogre can be special summoned by tributing an opponent's monster with a predator counter, and so can Hydra, but Hydra can do this from hand or grave. If Banksy-Ogre is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can place a predator counter on each face-up monster your opponent controls, and if you do, any of those monsters level 2 or higher become level 1. So that's the predator counter gimmick. You give an opponent's monster a predator counter. If their level is 2 or higher, they become level 1. Pretty simple. And Hydra also has a quick effect that lets you banish any other predator plant monster in your graveyard to debuff a monster on the field by 500. So on to spells. Predap starting with a brand new ultra rare from Immortal Destiny, Practice. This card is amazing. Just make sure you do your link summoning first, because it lets you special summon a Predaplant monster out of your hand, and then immediately after that you must add a Predap card from your deck to your hand. So you need to have a monster in hand to special summon with this and be able to search as well. So that's important to know. But if you combine this with Orcust Scorpio and you search a monster with this, you can always resolve Scorpio, because you play this, special summon the Scorpio, add the Predaplant monster, and then Scorpio can immediately discard that monster you searched to bring out the Cobra and then advance your plays from there. So this is a staple 3-of, in my opinion. Next we've got Predaplast. Basically it's a quick predator counter distribution method. So you reveal any number of Predap cards in your hand and distribute predator counters on your opponent's monsters equal to that amount revealed, and you can also banish this from the graveyard to protect battle destruction, which is nice. One Predator Pruning, it's like Premature Burial for the archetype. Sometimes you'll want to search this off of Predator Practice, but you know, you won't always need to. It can bring back the fusion monsters, which is nice to have in a pinch, and like elevate some power plays as well. Then we have the new fusion spell, Predator Prime Fusion. So if a Predaplant monster is on the field, you fusion summon a dark fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from either field as material, but you must include 2 or more dark monsters you control. So it's sort of like a super polymerization, but it's a bit more restrictive. Hard once per turn, but it is a quick play. Now for the, you know, I don't know why we're playing 3 copies of super polymerization. I'm joking. This card is stupidly busted in this deck. The deck basically screams play 3 super polymerization in this deck, because all of the fusion monsters in your extra deck require generic materials like dark monsters. And if you're playing against a deck that specializes in using dark monsters, they're not going to have a great time. This card against orcust players gives them a hard time. Just destroy their entire board, and especially the amount of super poly targets that you can play in this deck is ridiculous. Can't be responded to, a complete blowout condition. It's searchable, you know, off of Rafflesia and Darlingtonia Cobra. So yeah, we're playing 3. You've got 2. 2 normal poly. This is a weird one, because poly is generally a staple in the deck, because sometimes you won't be able to get 2 monsters on the field. That's how it is. And Predaplants like being fusion summoned from the field, but you know, it's not always the case. So you might want to get rid of some in hand. So poly's good, searchable as well. Draw power, 3 allure. We're running a pure dark deck. 3 called by the grave to let our plays go through and banish monsters in your opponent's graveyard. And then I'm testing out 1 Predator Planning. Now, this is a nice card going first, because it distributes predator counters on all of your opponent's monsters just by sending a Predaplant from your deck to the graveyard. And also, if you fusion summon while it's in the graveyard, except during the damage step, you can banish it to pop a card on your opponent's field. So if you combine it with any of the quick play fusion spells, you can disrupt them with predator counters, as well as the fact of, you know, bringing out a fusion monster and then popping a card on the field. So it's a nice card to have, I think, in my personal opinion. Okay, so now we're going to quickly go onto the extra deck. We're playing 1 copy of the brand new Predaplant Trifiovertum. This guy's a walking solemn warning for anything summoned from the extra deck. It requires 3 dark monsters on the field. So you can super poly into this, blow your opponent's board, and then if they try and pendulum summon from the extra deck, link summon, exceed summon, fusion, this will just negate it straight up. And also, if your opponent controls a monster with a predator counter while it's in the graveyard, you can just special summon this back from the graveyard. Meaning you don't need to play more than 1 of this guy. He's a super good card, amazing, just perfect, fantastic card. 2 Dragostapelia. Skill drains any monsters that have predator counters on it, and it can quick effect to set a predator counter on an opponent's monster. It requires a fusion monster and a dark monster, so if your opponent's playing any fusion monsters themselves, you can super poly or Predator Prime fusion into that. So this is a nice card to have to negate things. I'm playing 3 Chimera Flesia. This guy is just really good. It can run over some really high power monsters, because it gains 1,000 attack when it battles, and then your opponent's monster loses 1,000 attack. It can banish monsters, but only monsters with levels. However, you know, you'll have a good time against anyone playing like Thunder Dragons, because you can just super poly off their Colossuses, give them a Predator counter, and then just banish them straight up. So yeah, that's always a good thing to have. Now for the big boys, 1 Starving Venom, you know, prime target, and 1 Greedy. This guy shuts off an opponent's monster and makes it go to 0. Board white by banishing a level 8 or higher Dark in the Grave. Then we've got Mud Dragon of the Swamp for our other super poly plays. And then for link monsters, we've got 1 Jasmine to bring out plant monsters from the deck. We've got 1 Weird Witch's Apprentice, because it's a generic Dark Link monster and boosts your monsters by a fair bit. 1 El Mirage for the Squidrocera play, or just any protection you need. And then the Nightmare package of Cerberus, Phoenix and Unicorn, rounding everything off. Now as for side decking, it's basically up to you. If you go back to the Fire Fist deck profile I made at the beginning of the channel, you'll be able to see a nice side deck I made. This deck really likes to go second. It doesn't really have much plays going first, to be honest, unless you open a really good hand. You're not going to be doing much, but at the same time, you're going to have a really fun time just giving people a hard time. If they're playing any dark decks, any decks that you can really abuse Super Poly with, it's really funny playing online when someone did a full orcust board of Winder, Dingirsu, and I think it was another stupid monster, and I just Super Polyed them off and they just scooped immediately. So yeah, Predaplant's a really nice fun deck. Fairly budget as well. The new cards aren't that expensive compared to the Evil Hero stuff, so I think Predaplants have got a chance in the meta, but we'll have to see. Maybe they might make an impact, maybe they won't, but you know, that's for a future thing. So thank you for watching, guys. This has been Al from Exiles, and I hope everyone has a lovely day. Thank you.